Okay.
I only recently figured out how to stop screwing up helix runs.
Yeah, that could
So
be tricky to learn in the beginning. You don't have much wiggle room, right? No practice, just one run.
yeah, and if you try to push a little bit too hard in the first phase, you just die stupidly.
Yep, yep. And your cooldown's down, and then you can get like chain die, which is not good for your for your mental health to stay not
Yeah,
tilted. Yeah.
yeah, and you run with a little bit higher graphics so you can't see anything. You're just like,
Yep, that's a
yeah, maybe I should.
accident.
Yeah, Infinity kind of matches Golix's eyes. And you
Oh
look good.
yeah, yeah. I mean, even if you have like full skill invisibility, yeah, still Infinity will. It's always fun to pop that one in Will and then not know if you're in blue or purple because they just look very, very similar once you're in that skill. So you have to really look at the HP
Yeah.
bar on top. I have some other indicator going on.
But yeah, no, I'm generally enjoying the game. Uh, I mean, part of the grind is part of the fun for me. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, like everything, like you might not always see progress, but it's kind of like that delayed gratification where it's like you know that you're working towards a goal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, One thing you have on the screen right now that would be probably a good segue of a question
Mm-hmm.
is vulnerability.
Sure.
So I stopped when I hit 20% skip cooldown, but I know that it's probably better right now to be working towards Meso and drop gear
Mm-hmm.
and maybe getting that vulnerability switched over because while it's nice right now, I'm not pushing in-game bosses and damage isn't really the preventer for content right now for me,
Mm-hmm.
at least at the current level. So um, from what I think I know, miracle circulators are good to work on the second line, try and get that to where you want, and then
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if you lock from that point and then push through with honor until you get either the first or the third line where you want it, and then continue to lock until
Yep.
you perfect it.
Yeah, exactly. Ideally, you want to do that during a 50% off so that you just have twice the amount of rolls because honor is pretty rare to come by already. So you want to make sure you get the most value out of that honor EXP that you can possibly do by rolling during a 50% off invulnerability event. But that's essentially how you want to do it, yeah. Some people will have like what I call a mid game or like a training invulnerability for a while, sometimes even all the way up until like 275 or something. Mainly, you keep it kind of either until you have enough honor experience to roll out of it, or until you're so established on like bossing mules that your weekly income is pretty much like the percentage of it that is coming just from your account versus what's coming from your main character is just such a big difference that it makes more sense to keep it on it's to switch out of it essentially and give yourself that extra edge on bossing.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess just looking at what I have right
Mm-hmm.
there, like, um, I guess we'll eventually get into kind of like what my budget is for making drop gear and meso gear, and also,
Yep.
you kind of got to pick your poison with spending money. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it's best to just like budget out a specific amount to do a specific thing instead of
Mm-hmm.
sitting there and
Yeah.
busting it all on flames or potential.
Yeah, essentially, yeah, definitely. I like to, for especially if you're making that move with the circulators and everything. I'm a very big proponent of just setting a budget for how much you want to save on your circulators that event, and that's why you do it. Like I would do it during a 50% off, and then just be like, okay, I'm gonna spend, I don't know, random number like 8 bill on circulators. Like that's how much I want to spend at most. And then if you hit within that, then you can commit, and if you don't hit, then you just stop and move on, kind of thing. And then you just wait for the next event essentially. I think that's the healthiest way to go about it. Otherwise, you might just completely drain all your money, end up with no unique line that you want to have, and no upgrade whatsoever. And that's not good. You don't want all of your other. You don't really want to zero out, I think, on any event in particular, because there's just too many cool events around to make good gains with. So
Yeah, no, I agree.
that's what I would say.
Um, so like right now, I think I've got about 16 billion. Um, so like not a lot, but a fair portion that I can at least make some progress, I think, with.
Mm-hmm.
I've held on to it for now because unless like a Shining Star Force or like back like when Destiny came out and you got I think both Star Force events where you got like the 30% and the 5, 10, 15.
Yeah,
That's when I hit
yeah.
17 stars for most things.
Yeah, we're waiting for another one
Um,
of those during Savior, most likely in the somewhere in the end of the first or early second week of July, most likely. So that's what we're saving for. Because Savior, the other thing with that Savior comes with as well is a rework for star forcing. So up to 15 stars, it's no longer going to drop on fail, and there's also no longer going to be a boom chance up to 15. So what that means is that the cost, the individual cost per star forcing goes up a lot, up to 15, and then goes down again for 16 and 17. It's going to look a little bit weird in terms of cost, but the average cost of getting up to all the way up to 22 is roughly going to even out again. So yeah, in terms of like backups and having to like transfer hammer and all of that stuff, that's mainly not really going to be an issue anymore if you're just going for like 17 star gear. But only like if you're trying to go for like 21 star gear to transfer hammer into 20 star, then you're gonna have to like pick that back up. But it gives you more time to collect those backups. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I'm starting to collect backups, so most things are probably staying at 17 for a while, just so that I don't end up with no gear.
Yep. Yeah, maybe some 19 CRA or something. That's typically pretty low risk if you have a lot of backups for that.
That is a good point. So yeah, maybe that'll be on the horizon pretty soon. I would say most resources I look at right now mentioned that drop gear and Meso gear would be a good investment currently. Where would you kind of weigh in on that? I guess moving to 240, going to start probably looking at familiar farming, and nodes are still needed on the Adele probably before I start divesting them over to other mules.
Yeah, let me look through the screenshots a little bit and see if I can get the lay of the land a little bit here, some details. But you said in most of the stats that you actually tracked the progression grid quite well?
I would say pretty well. I would say IED is a little bit low. There's only one familiar with 15%, so but it's hanging around that like 91, 92%. But the WSE has no ops damage or IED on it right now.
Okay.
So they're probably going to be high points of re-rolling soon.
I see. And you've got well, it's the difference between the functional and the visual IED, right? Are you familiar with that?
On the basic level, yes. I understand that there's like hidden IED within skills, and I believe like what we're looking at on the screen right now would be what I usually base that grid off of, functional ID. Yeah, so your visual for Adele can be a little bit lower. It's not the end of the world because you've got Grave Proclamation that because of the rework on the cooldown, you can basically have on 100% of the time now, even through stages, right? It's very short cooldown now. So that's an extra little chunk of IED. And then also your Noble Summons, if you drag them through a boss, that also does IED debuff that will last for a while. And then if on top of that you have the Explorer Mages, for example, once you get those link skills, that'll give you another little bit ID above that. And then also early on for the hyper skills, most people will have the trigger skill, hyper skill. I don't know if you have that one. But there's like 3 trigger ones, and then there's the one for damage, one for boss damage, one for ID, I believe. So if you have that one, then that'll give you ID on most of your skills as well, like your cleave and the other triggers. So with all of that, you can definitely be a little bit lower visually in your stat window and still count yourself as being on the functional percentage at the same time. Okay, no, that's good to know.
Yeah, some other classes might have like very little hidden IED, so you pretty much just want to be on the grid number or a little bit higher even. But for Adele, you could be a little bit below, and that's fine. But you got that crit, that's good. Adele critical damage is very low. That does mean when you're looking at sources of damage that you can get, so anything that you can get your hands on critical damage will, for you, disproportionately increase your damage by a lot. So the we have the exclamation mark crit command, right? But most of those sources will be, of course, your Legion grid, and then glove potential. Those are big, and then any kind of Legion members on top of that. that will disproportionately give you a lot of extra damage, just because your base is what is it? You have 38 here, and then the base critical damage is between 30 and no, I always forget, between 20 and 50%. So it's like a 35% base. So right now your total critical damage on crits is like 73.5. So, you know, any percentage that you add there is kind of like a percentage and a half of final damage at this point, because it's like an additive source, but it functions as final damage on crits. So it'll increase your damage a lot if you can get your hands on more critical damage. So in terms of just increasing your damage, that will be something that you probably want to be more opportunistic about. Like anything with critical damage, that will be very valuable for you.
Okay, no, that's good to know. I don't have too many grid bonuses for it currently. Gloves don't have it,
Mm-hmm.
so the grid itself is maxed out with crit damage.
Okay, yeah, and even then, right? Even then, you're at 38.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So not too much.
Mm-hmm.
The grid bonus is in here somewhere. But
Yeah, I'm at the end now. Yeah.
But actual characters, yep, there we go. I've got a nice funny shape for the training one, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, since I think normal damage is new for me. I don't think it used to be there. I think it used to be like status resist or something.
Yeah, they redid that. They also changed it in the hyper skills and brought it in there.
But yeah, it's a nice, pretty shape right now.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of looks like a water wheel.
Yeah. Yeah, you end up with like a pinwheel or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, the familiars are it's a pretty tragic situation down there, but I haven't been farming them either, so it's just been random rare ones that I just take a peek at. So that's the Lone Ranger down there.
Yeah, holding down the fort. That's ideally, I mean, in the beginning, because you can't really start fusing, right? Because you don't get too many of the same cards. You just kind of funnel everything into whatever character can make any use of familiars and just reveal it, and then you probably have to reveal somewhere between like 170 to if you're unlucky, up to like 500 familiars before you get to IED ones. When working on Project CRA, I was doing all those characters, right? That's one of the things in here is like, does it have two IED familiars here? Like the two characters were lucky and got two of them within 10, and then one character had to open up nearly 600 cards. So for most of them, it was around 180 to 200 cards. And then, yeah, that got them to 2. So hopefully,
yeah, sounds like you're at both ends of that standard deviation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I figured. I don't farm for nodes or familiars that much right now because I don't have drop gear, and I also I've only been back for a short period of time, so mostly it's just keep up with the event, and keep up with daily simple stuff, things that get you the hardest.
Yeah. Let me look through the equips a little bit so we can place that. But yeah, so just for the critical damage, so if you have any characters with like the critical damage and the member bonus, then that would be pretty useful, or for the link skill as well. Don't know if you have so like the Kinesis link skill will give you critical damage, so that would be nice. And I don't know, do you have a shade for your Legion? I don't think I saw that.
I don't have the shade yet,
Yeah.
but I'm aware of it. It's
Mhm.
kind of like on a list of lists to work on.
Yeah. Okay, good thing. Yeah. And then the Hayato, of course, with some levels can get some crit damage. I don't know if you created a jet before, but like the jet critical damage.
Yeah, I did have a question on that.
Mhm.
So at this point, is it still worth it to make a jet, or is it going to be a temporary gain that's going to be eliminated?
I would have to check, but I thought you couldn't create them anymore. So if you don't already have one, I don't know if you can. You can double check real quick.
Let me double check. Do you remember way back in the day when they had the naming event where you could all the people that hadn't played for a long time got their names swiped?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I think I made like 40 characters of stupid names, so I might have a jet.
Oh, there might be one just like in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I
don't think that a jet was ever a gated class. I do have a jet. Yep.
Yeah, it wasn't temporary. Yeah, that's only Beast Tamer and Zero. Yeah.
Yep. He's only level 10 right now, but
Yeah, Jet isn't on the list anymore. Yeah, you can't create it anymore.
Okay, so if you have it and I get the bonus from it, will that last past its removal from the game?
Yeah, so the
That
way
we
they're
know of currently.
yeah that we know of currently is that you can just keep the character, and the event for removal, or for like job changing, basically job change event that's going to start in Savior and going to last all the way until the end of New Age on GMS. So that's going to be like late January to early February. And that is, if you change the class of your jet by that time, then you'll get basically the passive effect of a maxed out link skill and of a level 250 jet piece as a passive buff on your account for a year starting from the day that you switch. So if you level a jet now and you get to like, level 140 or something, and you get the 3% critical damage, and then you switch it immediately, you'll get it a year from there. Or if you wait another 6 months, and then 6 months in, then you job change it, then you'll have it a year from that point.
Okay, so overall, it's still temporary over the grand scheme of things, but
Yep.
2 years or whatever. I mean, that's still quite significant, especially when you're
you could get the buff all the way until like February of 2025 if you wait for the last moment to pick it up.
Yeah, no, that sounds good, and it really doesn't take that much time to make it to 200 nowadays.
No, yeah, and 200 is really good for the critical damage ones, right? Because it goes 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. So from 3 to 5 is a really nice jump for the effort from 140 to 200. Most other characters between 140 and 200, there's not that much going on and not too many gains.
Yeah. No, that was definitely a question worth asking. Before I forget to ask, since I've brought up the drop gear, what would you recommend? Like, do you think around the 240 point would be a good point to start getting that drop gear going? I've got, I guess, 2 pieces currently. I think one's Meso and one's drop on the rings, just out of coincidence. So, I think, yeah, item drop and strength on that one, and then Meso drop and strength on the other one. They're just a single line of it too, so it's not nothing fancy.
Nothing too crazy. Yeah, usually I think it's, when it comes to drop and Meso gear, I'm usually a big proponent of just like the earlier the better. Like if you know that you love your character and you're going to be playing it for a long time, the sooner you start making it, the faster you'll have made your money back. And the sooner you can start capitalizing and start printing more money, essentially. And even though, we're very much in a boss mule economy at this point, you still need to make money on that first character, and that first character still needs to be funding those first boss mules. So you're going to need drop or Meso gear regardless, definitely on your first character, probably on your first 2 or even 3 characters, depending on how you play the game. So for most people, I usually advise like once you're passing like level 225 to 230, if it's a hyperburn character that can be way faster, maybe at that point, by the time you know that you really like the character, you might already be almost done with it. But for most people, for the mains, once you start like 225-ish is usually when I would start slowly trying to make drop and Meso gear, if you know for sure that you're going to push the character to 250 and maybe even beyond.
Okay. I would say that the Adele's in that spot right now. Pretty comfortable with it. Have a pretty good understanding of how it works, and I still find it fun.
Yep. Yeah. So the other reason next to the making your money back is also that you are less likely to end up in a situation where you have really, really nice damage potential on the rings, and then you'd have to like kind of take a step back in going into the damage, going into the drop and Meso gear, and that might feel kind of bad because you're used to a certain amount of damage, and then you actually go down in damage. And kind of to avoid that, I think it's good to jump like from epic accessories straight into legendary with drop or Meso, so you stay roughly equal or maybe even go up a little bit in damage and gain a lot of utility from the drop and Meso without feeling like you're making a big sacrifice there.
Yeah, which I might make a little bit of regression. But there are definitely some pieces like that pendant right there not doing very much for me as far as the potential. Shoulders and gloves are going to be big improvements as far as just like compensating for maybe losing some stat on the rings. And the greed pendant is just like a spot holder, so it's not doing anything.
Yeah, it's got that extra little drop rate on equips only, which is nice, of course. It's more than nothing.
I've got a second pink bean mark right now that I'm trying to turn into Meso gear. So
Yeah.
only because the other one rolled 3 lines of strength at unique. So I just thought
yeah, no point in even trying to get the legendary. Spending a whole bunch of money for to end up with the same thing that you have now is not a good idea.
Yeah. I know. Sorry, probably jumping all over the place. I think flames, for the most part, are in a decent spot. I ran it through the calculator. I think most of them are in that like 70 to 80 range, maybe a couple in the 90s, and I think one of them is 135. But I couldn't tell you which one. It's probably apparent on here.
Your shoe, probably.
Yeah, it could be
79.5 with 4 attack.
Yeah, it might be the shoe. And I don't know. I mean, there's still plenty of cubing to be done. Part of why I've been so frugal with the Mesos is just not knowing, like, should I just be doing it like every Star Force event, or is there a cubing event that's going to come some point?
Yeah, we can talk about like events in general. So usually it's like the Sunny Sunday stuff, right? So that's like very clear. Like this is where there's a huge opportunity. Your money's just worth more here. Sunny Sundays is, well, at this point it seems to be exclusively Star Forcing events. That's just Sunny Sundays, and then cubes have sales sometimes, that are announced pretty rarely in advance. Not that far ahead of time, but we have an estimation of when they will roughly be. And then there's the DMT or the MMT, which is like the miracle time where you have double the chance for tearing up. Although we're not quite sure how that's going to go, because historically that event has been, met with a lot of clutter and people doing stuff at the same time and like servers overloading. And now that they redid the cubes and they gave it a small chance for double tearing up and everything, we don't know if that does anything differently for DMT or MMT, if that's still going to be happening or not. So that's a big question mark. I think cube sales in general are something that you want to start looking for if you're trying to 3-line your WSE, or get at least 2.5 to 3-line like your potentials. And usually I wouldn't really be doing that until you're at least like a bunch of your stuff is like a 21 Star Force already. So it's mostly just looking for the Star Force events and making sure that you have your, first you have your drop of Meso gear and your WSE. Make sure that those have solid lines. WSE takes a lot of, builds you a lot of your damage. And then, of course, your drop in Meso gear, make sure that with that damage you can get a lot of gains from all the monsters that you're killing, both in drops for backups and both in utility items and both in Mesos that you can then reinvest in your character. And then that'll be a solid foundation that helps you build and give you time to make that money and to get backups, so that when an event comes, then you have the opportunity to really make those items work for you, and you'll be able to, every single upgrade you make is hopefully like a decent jump forward, like a leap forward. Because if you tend to make really big jumps in upgrades, then your money is used more efficiently, right? Than if every single time you're making like a very small upgrade. Especially when it comes to, like, you can imagine for flaming, for example, if you're trying to get a higher flame score by like 5 flames, just because you have what you have now, that doesn't, like, you could have any flame now. The average to get that other flame is the same amount, right? So you get reducing efficiency there very quickly. Same thing with cubing. Like every cube is just a complete reroll of the last cube. Star Forcing is the only one where you can really build on what you already have, and on average at least reduce the upgrade cost somewhat because of the investment you already have. And because of how much stat it gives you with increased Star Force, that's where it makes the most sense to really push early on.
Yeah, nope, that makes sense to me.
So usually 30% offs are really good up to 15, and then 5, 10, 15s tend to be better past 15, just because 15 to 16 is always a 100% chance. And well, we have calculators, right? Calculators for Star Forcing and stuff, and those are going to be made up to date. So you can always put in the metrics of like, okay, I have this item at 17. I want to get it to 19. This event is coming up. How much is that going to cost me? Do I have that money? How many booms on average? Do I have that amount of backups? I do. Then you can go for it. And to keep everything on track and to make sure that you're not like star forcing up to 21 and your potential is still like 6% epic. That's where the progression grid comes in, because you'll most likely if you're going way over on star forcing, first of all, there's the star forcing number here, right? So you'll probably see that you're maybe going a little bit hard on that. Plus the stat is probably going to be lacking, because if all of your money is going towards star forcing, the reason that star forcing is so good is because you're getting a lot of weapon attack and magic attack. And I'll probably add weapon and magic attack in here though, because in Savior we're going to have weapon and magic attack in our stat window. So that's going to be an interesting stat to add there, and that'll really be just another metric to help you stay on track essentially.
Okay. As far as the WSE goes, would you mind scrolling to that maybe?
Yeah, because your weapon is here, and then the other two are on the bottom. Yeah, because the secondary definitely could be way stronger.
Yeah, I assume that they can all be quite a bit better. So feel free to roast me on them.
Well, I don't find that particularly productive, but I will say so as a general rule of thumb. So star forcing definitely more important. I wouldn't go super hard on cubes and so cube sales you don't really have to wait for. You're mostly just looking for star forcing events. You start looking for cube sales when you're trying to like 3-line WSE and like 3-line accessories and stuff like that. And I would say that's after 21 starring. So kind of like place it, budget wise. Up to that point, it's mostly star forcing, but like I said before the star forcing is making sure your WSE and that your drop in Meso gear is where you want it to be. So it's very possible that since you already have 17 on your stuff, right, it's very possible that the Shining Star Force is just kind of come at a pretty weird time for you where you can't really take advantage of it, because you're just going to be dumping all of your money into cubing instead, to make sure that that foundation first is more solid, so that you can then from there on out build on top of it, and then maybe the next Shining or the next big event will be much more beneficial for you to take to partake in. So
me too. I think we just had a 5, 10, 15 within the last couple weeks. I didn't go very hard on that. I might have spent 1 to 2 billion just like get the pink mark up there, and my hero I just bumped a couple CRA pieces to 17 just for it. So nothing too great.
Yeah, that's fine. So the other thing with potential, I would say my general rule of thumb is that if something is rare, I would always mystical cube it to at least 3%, right? Because you have those lying around in droves, so you always have access to those, right? If something is epic, I would always roll at least until 6% main stat. If something is unique, I would typically try to look for 2 lines that do something, so like 1.5 lines of something functional. So like your glove being unique and having decent sharp eyes and 7% stat, like that would be, I think, the minimum. And you have boss accessory cubes and that kind of stuff to roll, that at least it's doing something a little bit more than 1 line. And if you're going to get it to legendary, or if it gets legendary, I would keep rolling until it at least has 2 useful lines, like 2 full lines that do something. This is mainly just because of the prohibitive cost of ranking things up. I think if it does rank up, you want to keep rolling to capitalize on it. And again, the more you settle early, kind of like with the extra potential on the accessories, the more you like settle early on something that you have, the more you'll actually be losing once you roll over it. And it'll have a bigger impact in your entire account and actually be noticeable. But if you keep rolling before you get used to it, you're not really missing out on anything because you never had it before. And then once you settle, then you settle into something that you're going to keep for a longer period of time. So I think the Knight's Emblem is fine, because this early in the game, when your Legion isn't completely built out yet, and you don't have the complete Superior Golok set yet, and your familiars aren't like giving you 500 million% IED, having 1 line of IED at least in your WSE, even on a character that has some functional like the Adele, is totally fine. So having 40 IED and 9 attack on your emblem for legendary is totally good. The problem though is with the secondary here, because lines of damage, although that they look nice because they add a lot of range, they're actually not as good as they look, because when it comes to percentage damage, that goes, when you're attacking normal monsters, it goes on the pile with normal monster damage, and when you're attacking bosses, it goes on the pile with boss damage. So you get immediately a lot of reduced amount there, right? So if your damage total, like if you look at your stat window, you have 69% damage, nice, and then you have 137% boss damage. So it'll look like it adds a whole lot of range to you, but when you're bossing, that damage is only not even a third as efficient, but less than a quarter of the efficiency, because you have a base of 100% damage. That's like your normal damage that you're dealing. And then on top of that, you have the 69% damage. Then on top of that, you have the 137% boss damage. And then on top of that, you could have any kind of, stacking link skills like the arc, for example, right? That are not stacked when you're standing still, but during the boss fight will be stacked the whole time. Maybe the Ilium link skill, those kind of things. And then your total damage at that point might actually be like around 400%. So then in terms of that 18% is like 1/20th or something of your total damage. So you can see that as roughly being 5% of your final damage. However, all of the percentage attack you have, all of that combined is also a final damage multiplier. So if you have 9% attack here and 10% on a weapon, so your total weapon attack percent is 19%. If you were to add, another 19%, that would basically double your damage instead. Because it's because it becomes part of a different multiplier. So the percentage damage is nice on the weapon, but it's like something to sweeten the deal as like a third line, or maybe as a second line together with another one, right? So let's say you roll like 12% attack, 9% damage, 9% strength or something. Now, that's not like a great roll, but if you're very early on and you just get to legendary, that could be something that would be like half decent to keep. But if you only have 9% damage on it, it just doesn't live up to the value that piece could have. Another way that you can compare it is you can kind of compare it with the other equivalent lines, which would be boss damage, right? Of course, this is less efficient than boss damage when you're bossing, but it does something when you're not bossing. But the equivalence of a boss damage line, of how powerful that is like 30, 35, or 40% per line. And this is 18% coming from 2 lines. So these 2 lines together aren't even 1 prime line of boss damage when you're bossing. So it's kind of like half a line right now, right? And you want it actually to be 2. So if you were cubing, you probably want more baseline damage now to come out of the secondary first, to get that base damage up, to have an easier time bossing, and to be able to maintain killing monsters around your level, because there's probably going to be some loss of stat in your accessories coming up, and you don't want that to actually be lowering your kill speed, right? Because you want to have the kill speed be, I can kill all the monsters within a map rotation, and then within those monster kills, I want to get more resources from them. So you want to safeguard that damage first, so that you can then go for the resources per kill. So I would definitely first recube the secondary, and aim for like lines of attack, either 2 lines of weapon attack, or 1 line attack, 1 line boss damage. Any combination like that is probably going to be good.
Okay, no, that's good news to hear. I knew that percentage attack was better than percentage damage, but I didn't know exactly how MapleStory takes a look at its calculation for like final damage, and not exact final damage, but just like what you perform on the screen.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's good.
And, so the line of like 40 boss and line of 12 attack, that's like roughly equivalent for your damage output, but it ultimately comes down to the balance between those stats. And that's what the progression grid also tries to safeguard, to not go crazy on the percentage damage, because if you do, that's most likely going at the expense of percentage attack lines, and therefore losing you in efficiency in your total damage that you're putting out.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And honestly, it's kind of a relief to know that I have so much room for extra damage right there, because when the drop gear comes, it should offset hopefully pretty well.
Oh, easily, yeah. It'll still be a big net positive, I think you'll find, because there's just 2 lines of attack instead of 2 lines of damage on a secondary will be a huge difference in damage output.
Yeah.
So it should be no problem. And the other thing is then your weapon, of course, as the third piece. The question is there, because all 3 lines do something. Again, it's not like a crazy insane potential, but for unique, it's definitely solid, right? Because for unique, 1 line and the second line doing something is what you want there, but you've got all 3 lines doing something. So for unique, it's really good. The question is, if you have enough damage to keep killing your stuff with this, and you're going to be working on the drop rate and meso gear anyway, that's probably a better priority to just work on the drop rate gear and meso gear, because this is not a permanent piece, right? Not like the other ones, not like your emblem and your secondary. So depending on how close you are to Arcane, if you're able to join like Hard Lucid, Hard Will, maybe with your current damage, then you can just leave him where he is. If you find that you want the party that you want to run with, you guys need more damage, then it can definitely be something where getting to Legendary, getting 2 useful lines, similar lines that you're looking for on here would be like on the secondary, so like 2 lines of attack or 1 line attack, 1 line boss, something like that. If that's necessary, then you can do that after your drop and meso gear is ready. But if by that time you're doing those bosses and you can do everything that you want to do on the character just fine, then just leave this guy where he is and just focus purely on Arcane, because that's going to be expensive as hell. So you want to make sure they have all the money available for that to upgrade it when it gets to that.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. It's probably a little bit more frowned upon, but I probably will take people up on those hard carries for the weapon, just due to lack of time. I think that with skill I can get there. It's just like it's not a huge change in mechanics on the fight, at least from what I've seen so far.
Sure.
And I guess with the changes of Star Force coming for like not dropping, do you think like if I were to get that arcane weapon, like let's just say I get lucky, would it be worth trying to get it to like 12 or 15 before the changes, or to wait if it's going to be more expensive?
I would wait, because you could spend a lot more on an arcane, even if the average is, I don't know what they say exactly, but I've heard of people just getting a little bit unlucky and spending like 7 or 8 builds just on the star forcing.
Yeah, that's
when you're at your levels of income, that could be like months of money almost. Yeah.
It's probably not the priority right now. I probably only make somewhere between 2 and 2.5 bill a week.
Well, if you get an okay flame on a clean arcane and you work on the potential, it'll already be better than this, because the base attack is like almost 300. So even without the star forcing, it'll start beating out this guy. Yeah.
Okay. Can I ask a completely pointless question that has no relevance for me right now?
Okay, sure, go for it.
So when someone is liberating, since there's like no transfer from like there's no gap between the 160 and the 200 weapon, do people transfer an arcane weapon into their Genesis?
No, because they're both level 200, so they're
both 200.
Yeah, they couldn't even if they wanted to. But the Genesis comes like with a whole bunch of upgrades already on it. So it comes 22 start immediately, so you don't have to worry about star forcing at all. And it comes with unique regular potential, and then in non-reboot it also comes with epic bonus potential, so you don't have to start all the way from scratch with that. It comes with the 2 skills, of course, like the iframe and the final damage passive. And it also comes with, in non-reboot, it comes with like partially scrolled already, or like fully scrolled with 15% bonus on top of it as well. So because it takes so long to get it, it comes with a lot of upgrades on it. Basically the only thing we do is you try to get a really good flame in it, and we get it up to legendary and like mass roll the potential. That's it. So a lot of people tend to set like a great budget aside for those 2 things and have very high standards for those 2 things, because the star forcing is not like an investment you make on it at all. You couldn't even try to tap it to 23 if you wanted to. Some people probably would try it, because people would be crazy enough to give it a try. Yeah. We could look at, for the drop of meso gear, I guess, we could look at which pieces you had in mind for turning it into that. Oh, you can't hear me? Oh, I can't hear you anymore either. Can't hear you anymore either. Oh, there's a Discord update as well. Hello? Uh-oh. Briefly leave voice. Discord update. I dropped a few frames. Are we good? Loud and clear on stream. Stream looks good, by the way, right? Like the quality and everything. Is it? Was there any stuttering anywhere? Let me restart the call. Hello? That's weird. We good? Nice, nice. Remember to keep referring people, by the way, guys. You gotta get that Xbox. Win that thing, bro. Stream started when I went into Cash Shop, which is a Maple issue, not TVA. True, true. Try changing Discord server for the call. Hang on, let me disconnect. Hello, hello. Yeah, stream can hear me. I don't think you guys can hear him, right? MapleStory is an MMORPG game from Korea. Yeah. No problem, comment. Not everybody knows. Hello, hello. Test. Uh-oh. We're having some technical issues. Not with the stream, but with with staying connected with our person on the other line there. Referring to Skype, I don't know if I have that. Oh, he's gonna try his other headset again. I promise I didn't hit anything. No, he suddenly just went away. I mean, I had before with Discord where we're doing a session and someone is gone and is like, hello, hello, and then they're just. But usually you just leave the call and you rejoin and you're good. See if we can get him back in here. Ventrilo, Google Meets, TS3. What are the other ones? Mumble? God, there were so many. Was there like an AOL chat as well? MIRC? Oh yeah, MIRC, oh. MSN? Did we have voice over MSN Messenger? ICQ. Oh god, that's some old school stuff. I guess the stream event was supposed to be an hour, right? Are we the only ones still streaming? Are we getting all the viewers? How are the other streams doing? Did you guys check? Someone was doing TFT, I think. Oh boy, we're having trouble getting our caller back here. You guys, wait, in the stream, you guys can hear me, but I don't think you guys can hear the other guy anymore, right? Because it's not coming through on my Discord. Scardor supremacy. It'll be this is my strategy for the MapleStory section on Twitch as well. Just stay alive forever, you know? Just stay alive forever, never go away. Consistency is key, you know? Bro is gone. You can't hear him. Oh yeah. No, they can't hear you. I don't hear anything either anymore. Uh-oh. What do we do now? Well, we could try, if you unmute the tab, you could hear me and type questions in here. We could do that. We could communicate that way. I've done that before. I actually did a progression session with a deaf person once. And I installed text-to-speech so they could read what I was saying like on the bottom of the screen, and they would type to me their questions on Discord, and I did the session like that. I never thought it would work because like the dude was like, oh, there's one thing though, like I'm deaf, and I'm like, oh god. You have to, because there's so many things you take for granted, you have to like every single step of every single process now, you have to double check like, am I relying on audio for this? Because if I am, we have to do this differently. I was entering the stream at the first place, too afraid to check other streams. Oh, no need to be afraid. I guess, well, I mean, I guess this is a new platform. People can go crazy here. I think that is our only option right now. Or continue and try again another time. Oh, by the way, does anyone know on TBA, is there a way to have like a VOD saved of my stream? Because usually these sessions I use for my YouTube channel as well. If you're watching on YouTube, hello. Yeah, might be a little bit of a delay, but it was pretty quick. I think the delay is only 1 or 2 seconds if you're listening now. Yeah, already quite far. Yeah, so I would say for, let me know once you hear the things I'm saying right now, Sham. Yeah, so you're only like a second behind or something. It's very, yeah, it was very quick. Okay, so no more audio from his side for now. Apparently it's not working. Even tried switching headsets, it's just not going. But he can hear the stream, of course, so we can communicate that way. I will just be looking at this way, reading the Discord messages. So yeah, I would definitely invest. So cube wise, definitely go hard on the secondary to make sure you get what we talked about there, and then go mainly on the drop and meso gear in terms of money. And then definitely, oh yeah, so we were checking like which accessories you would use to turn into drop and meso gear, right? I think it's totally fine, even with the superior gear, to have that temporarily work for you in terms of drop and meso. And then eventually, of course, you want to make it become your damage gear. But the thing is, even as a 17-star superior Gollux ring, as long as you don't have the set completed, it's essentially just kind of like the same as an event ring, right? So you want to look at your characters. And in general as well for your account, you want to look at which pieces am I going to need in terms of rings specifically, because you'll have to pick which character picks that up on your account during event periods. So having this one meso already, that's good. Drop rate already is good. So we want to get 5 total with meso obtain and 4 with drop rate among the 9 pieces of accessories. That's our ultimate goal. It's fine if the greed pendant ends up being drop rate. That'd be really good because it already has a little bit of drop for weapons. No, for items, for equips, right? Oh, computer defaulted to auto mute. Oh.
Yeah. Can you hear me again?
Yeah, I can hear you, but you're probably on your second headset again because you're very quiet.
I'll go back to the other one.
Yeah.
We can finish this up.
Yeah, no problems.
Burn both headsets, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, and then he's probably going to be really loud on the other one for a little bit. Oh. You're defaulted to auto mute. I've never heard of that before. That's interesting.
There. Are we there?
Yeah, we're there. Hello, hello?
There we go. I can hear you again.
Yes.
All right, we'll burn both headsets after this. So
yeah, ritual burning in the backyard and
yeah, let's do a little Amazon shopping at the end.
yeah, you've earned that one. Yeah, so we want to get 9 pieces, right? So I think it's totally fine to take something like Dominator Pendant that has a pretty good flame like this one, because if you're looking for transposing eventually, right, as an upgrade for your damage pendant, your second pendant next to the superior, the flame is going to get completely knocked off of the item. So it would also be fine to just have this pendant being your drop or meso pendant for now, because it's not like you have any alternative at the moment, and it's already epic, and it'll bring nice damage and boss accessory bonus. So there'll be, you know, good foundation of damage to also help you make sure that in drop and meso gear you're not like super weak.
Sure. I think I've got 2 or 3 extra spares on it too.
Yeah, that's fine then. One of those can get transposed then, because all you need is 16 and then transpose, and the flame doesn't even matter. So if anything, you want to take the one with the worst flame now instead of like the best flame. So that definitely switched around. And then the green pendant can be the other pendant. And then you'd need, since you have 2 rings that are already legendary and they're not like insane in potential where it's like, oh my god, this is, you know, it's not like 24% or 27 or 30 or god forbid 33%. I would also just convert these immediately, because the initial investment is low, right? It's already legendary, the other one is already unique, so you can very quickly get them to align a drop or meso. Whatever they hit, drop or meso, just keep that. And then once you get, if you either get more than 4 of drop or more than 5 of meso, just roll whatever item doesn't also have some strength on it, and roll that one first to try to get the other utility line essentially.
Okay. I've got a Master Ring SS2 and I think a kind of treasure that could be rolled into something.
Mm-hmm.
They're not on here. They're just sitting in my bag. The Master Ring SS is unique, so that could probably be easily pushed.
Okay. Yeah, then maybe prioritize that one over the Superior Gollux, because, you know, if you're going to have to choose anyway, the Gollux ring would ideally have damage over utility line, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
then maybe prioritize that one. If one of the two rolls like decent amounts of, or, you know, if they do roll a lot of stat for any of these pieces, then you could choose to keep that as your damage piece and then make another one for drop or meso. It's not very likely to happen, of course. You're most likely going to roll drop or meso with some life stat before you roll anything 24 or plus on stat, just because of rarity.
Yeah. Nope, that sounds good. I kind of figured that we were going to go towards drop gear. I mean, most resources, including yourself, you know, highly prioritize it and state all of its benefits. So probably no point in holding off anymore.
Yep. What else do we have? We have 4 rings. Oh yeah, and you were making a second eye, right? The other black beam mark?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the face you can just rank
unique
up.
right now. Right now I've been throwing some cubes at the shoulder too, and it's just being a bunch of junk lines right now.
Yeah, trying to get any strength on there. Oh, and the E-ring would actually be really nice as dropper meso gear as well, because it's already Starforced over, and it's got really nice flame on it as well, so it wouldn't be a very weak piece, so it'll be able to maintain some of your damage there as well.
Yeah. And I think it was getting set up. It's been a year since I've looked at this item specifically, but I think it was getting set up for a transfer to something.
That's also, that would be another option, is that you could transfer it into Reinforce and then that into Superior. But it has a really nice flame on it, and if you transfer, that flame is gone. So I would almost value it more. And eventually you will get your drop and meso pieces that can go to 17, also to 17, because you want to keep them when you're training in like level 250 plus areas eventually. And you will need, you know, all of your pieces to kind of try to carry their weight at least a little bit. So the fact that it has a really nice flame and you're already starting it up to 16, that will really prime it to stay your drop or meso piece like for all of the future. And like we said, like because the Starforce change and no longer dropping and no longer booming up to 15, it'll make more sense to just, when you have a superior, you just Starforce it as it is, and then just by then, you know, either buy an epic potential scroll somewhere or from an event shop, or just throw cubes at it to make it legendary, or maybe good unique potential, you know. That'll make more sense than really bother too much with transfer hammering into it. Okay, then we have all the 9 pieces. Yeah, for flames, you know where the calculator is, so you can like slowly walk them up as you have, as you get them here and there. Usually just event shops and from bosses every now and then, but flaming is more a little bit, you know, side project kind of thing. And we talked about potentials and like going really hard for good potentials, right? It's mostly the next big set after this, the next big move is going to be killing Helix reliably, and again, the secondary is going to help a lot with that, with the overall damage, and is going to be switching into full superior Golix set and then getting damage on that, and aside with that, probably Sweetwater stuff, and then those are going to replace like your full drop and Meso set as a full damage set. That's going to be like the next big expanse, and then after that, it's most likely Star Forcing again and like going past 17 and waiting for those big events, and 19 on the CRA, that kind of stuff. Maybe then up to 21 on CRA. Then if you have enough fodder, maybe kind of treasuring if you have a bunch of those, that could be the next one. And then maybe the stuff that you transfer hammer into the superior will be after that. So if you have reinforced rings, reinforced E-rings, sorry, to transfer hammer into a high Star Force superior E-ring. If you have dominators, so that's one thing to mention though. I would make sure that you don't invest too much extra money into the Enraged Sakum belt, because the next belt that you want to get is a superior, and they're both level 150, so you won't be able to transfer hammer anything from this one into the next one.
Yep.
So all of that.
That's just
Yeah. So that should just stay right where it is.
I know that you've probably stated it a million times, but as far as progressing to Sweetwater from where I'm at now, Sweetwater, what I recall, is 160. So, which I think I know that it costs dineros each time you attempt to make the transfer. I don't know.
It's 10 dineros per attempt, yeah, up to 10 times a day.
Do you lose any items on fails?
No, that's just no. Fail is just you keep exactly what you had before, and if you succeed, then the transposed item disappears and the stats go into the other item, into the Sweetwater item. Yeah.
And what would be the 150 equivalent, or what would be the 150 accessories that would be getting transposed?
It's really only the Dominator pendant into the Sweetwater pendant essentially that we do. And then if you find a Papulatus mark, then that could be transposed into the Sweetwater monocle. And as a
those don't exist.
Yeah, exactly. So so it's really only just like for the pendant and making a good solid pendant as a second pendant, because the only follow-up pendant after that, again, if you have like access to carries, or you're getting into higher boss fights quicker, and you can get your hand on Dawn pendants, and you could also go for the Dawn pendant, which is lower level and stuff than the Sweetwater pendant, but it is a high Star Force Dawn pendant would be the upgrade to a Sweetwater pendant, even though it's if a really good Sweetwater pendant, it could be slightly downgrade. The reason that we go for it is because the Dawn is set with either the ring or the Twilight mark if you have it at that point, and because you will be breaking the eventually you break the superior set again for full pitched boss set, but this is like might never happen for you depending on how long you play the game.
Sure.
So that could be good enough to kind of like skip the jump into the Sweetwater pendant. And that's why a lot of people are electing, depending on how they play the game, to kind of just completely skip out on Sweetwater because they don't like the dailies, and because there are certain other things that you can hang on to in your progression. It's just that those tend to have low chance of happening, and Sweetwater is guaranteed if you do enough runs. So depending on how you play the game and where you have your connections and what your level of patience is, one upgrade path or the other one, it's not a huge difference, but I like to have my certainty over my uncertainty typically.
No, I get you there, and I feel like once you have the dreadnought or whatever the final boat is, it doesn't really take up that much time during the day. And like you said,
the build up to dreadnought is usually what people dread the most. But once you have it, then you're cashing in for sure.
Trying to think of some last minute things so I don't take up too much of your night.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it's getting late over there. As far as familiars, when you start to farm, would you say, is there any like one certain area that you recommend, or like is 240 like a pretty good spot to be doing it because you're going to be in spots for a fair bit of time?
Yeah, you're going to have to basically choose a little bit if you want to get familiars or if you want to get better EXP. They tend to be slightly mutually exclusive. The area that has the best overlap is technically the area that has the most monsters, so where if you could kill all of them, you get the most cards and you get the most EXP around that if you're around that level, is in Morass, is in the Shadow Dance Halls. but those are, you know, massive maps, right? The long horizontal maps with the shadows in it. So if people try to farm familiars, they typically go there. So you can, you know, you can set up some summons, maybe set up the Urda fountain, you know, that kind of stuff. Maybe some other summons that you have, and then jump around. You probably need a vac pet because the drops are, you know, spread over like 40 different platforms. And then, or have insane mobility, yeah, like a buccaneer. And then you could actually farm familiars there. The more realistic place where you will really be farming familiars is most of the maps in Moonbridge. So once you get to 245, in Labyrinth in 250, and in Limina in 255, that's when people really start getting decent amounts of familiars. If you want to go out of your way and get a little bit more on familiars, but lose a little bit on EXP, sometimes people like the Asphera maps, so like the Spider Asphera maps, MTS 2, 3, and 4, those can be decent. So I would just try to go around the map and see if you can full map clear roughly within the 7 seconds. Typically, if you're waiting a lot of time for the monsters to respawn, then you probably want to be in a bigger map instead. And if, you know, the monsters are respawning before you can kill them, that means that you're kind of like over capacity. You're like, you can't really handle that map as well. So maybe a slightly smaller map might be better for you.
As far as vac pets goes, I have had the fortune of having a temporary one for a little bit, which ruined me for the rest of pets.
Yep.
Are there any options for permanent vac pets, or?
Nope. There's a vac pet coming as what to say this right? I believe on the Kali, one of the rewards on there is going to be a vac pet. But that's one of those temp ones for a month. The pink bean cotton candy one, cotton candy pink bean CCPB. You also can't put that into storage at all. So that's just going to be on that character, just, you know, so you get nice and hooked for that 1 month about how amazing it is. And then I wouldn't be surprised if like a month after that, there's going to be like the vac pets are going to come back, and then everyone's going to, you know, get their second taste for the $100. But yeah, it's really, you just have to wait until they're available, and then it's $100. If you have enough reward points, you can discount it up to 30%, both the pet itself initially and then the Waters of Life afterwards, that you if you want to redo them. Yeah.
Okay, well that's nice. Sometimes you take a look at how much you spend on the game and how much $70 is probably actually worth it for good people, for a good portion.
Yeah, you might have to talk to your wife about that one, just to make sure that she look at the credit card statements and is like, what's going on?
Oh man, that's why you have your own separate bank accounts.
Yes, that's why you don't intermingle all of your finances. Exactly.
Yeah.
Want to have a little bit of.
Speaking of that, I heard you mention something about your taxes earlier. Don't make me talk to the tax teams at work. I'll let them know. Actually, do you have to worry about the IRS, or do you have an equivalent over there?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, it's like a Belgian tax system. Yeah, but they know most of the stuff. I mean, I'm doing all of my stuff through like an accountant now, but beforehand, the tax system here was pretty good, where basically they already know everything anyway, so they basically pre-fill in all of your taxes, and you just have to double check if it's right. And if you have pretty standard like tax stuff, you have to do almost nothing. It takes you like 10 minutes to do your taxes, basically. The longest time it takes you is to figure out again how you log into the damn program and make sure that you have your ad blocker disabled, so you actually, you know, get in there. That's like the hardest part. Or like, where's the button to send? Like that takes more time than actually doing your taxes almost. Yeah,
I would say compiling your paperwork, getting it into a nice PDF, and getting it sent over into a portal for your account is quite nice.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to. Well, that's what we're working on setting up now. Yeah, that's the most work. But once that's once that's streamlined, then that should be fine. But that's taking up the most work now in the beginning.
Yeah. I'm one of the few that get my W-2s and all stuff and get it done in like February. So
yeah, that's probably sooner the better on that one.
Yeah, nobody likes taxes. But
nope. Let alone pay them.
Yeah, seriously. Well, when you start having kids, you'll start getting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. It gets more complicated and everything. Yeah. I'm looking at the. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, you're good.
I was gonna say I'm looking at the Matrix a little bit, because I guess we didn't really talk about that much. Did you have any questions on that topic?
I boosted the will skill pretty heavily with with boost nodes, but
Yep.
now it's level 24, and I probably wish I would have just put it into infinity and other things. But so I'm not. I mean, I may as well just get that to 25 and be done with it. But I might just stay at 24. And,
Yeah, as long as once you start doing hard will, then the every single hard will kill drops the node that you can level it up with. So you don't have to use EXP nodes, but a lot of people say, oh, if you have EXP nodes, you need to level up that skill because it can only level with hard will nodes that you can only get one a week from if you're clearing, right? So it takes a long time to max it out. So that's why a lot of people say to level that one up with EXP nodes. I'm usually a big proponent of not doing that, and well, I would say never. Wouldn't say never, but like depending on what the need is for your matrix for your class, right? So there's a few skills for you that will add a lot of damage to you, being of course the Infinity Blade most of all, and then second of all, actually your weapon aura. Maybe come as a surprise, but that's like your second biggest one, and then I believe it's Ruin, and then the Storm and the Legacy wings, Legacy Restoration, kind of in that order. The reason for weapon aura is because the uptime goes up a lot, and it gives you final damage and IED, so it helps with the damage with everything else. So that's why it's a nice boost. But yeah, Infinity Blade is a huge benefit to your burst damage, and since you're 3-minute burst, you really want to make that 3 minutes count.
yeah, I know that there's a lot of improvements for nodes, which I did have a question of whether or not I should be kind of splitting them between wheels, but I think that they're probably best to just be used on the Adele until it's a comfortable spot. Otherwise,
I would say
I'm just,
so until you feel like all of the weekly bosses, there's really nothing there that's really surprising you. You can have like an unlucky run, but there's no boss that you're really like, ooh, I don't know if I'm gonna make it that one this week. You know, maybe I'm thinking of maybe I'll skip it or I'll do it. Maybe I'll do it next week kind of thing. If you're thinking that, then there's probably some more improvement to work on. And the second thing I will mention is that you don't have your decent sharp eyes. You don't have your decent sharp eyes because of your glove, right? But you also don't have your decent speed infusion in here. Do you usually use green pots for extra attack speed?
I did have a question on that too, just regarding if there's like a general list of buffs that are recommended for bossing, because I watch yourself or other people, and they've got it takes up a decent portion of their screen with all the buffs that they have going in.
Yeah.
So, is there like a general list that you'd recommend outside of like guild buffs, green pots, red pots?
Yeah. So I have exclamation mark checklists of like what do you do when going into mobbing and bossing. So I have a little bit of a list here that I made, that I added. So these are generally, depending on how try hard you want to get, some of these are pretty easy and some of them might take a little bit. But I've got like the monster puck potions here, right? So that's the green and the red one usually. Boss and ID pots, those are like the bigger 2-hour potions that you can either craft with alchemy, or that you can start getting as drops once you start doing the higher level bosses. DRG, Ursus, Legion buffs, so that's if you want to, if you have the coins for it. Cider or Tengu or Apple, because those go into the same slot, so you only need one of those. Tengu is from Threads of Fate. That takes a while to build up and to maintain. Cider is much easier. You can just buy it in the same shop where you can buy your potions, essentially, right, in Showa Town. And he also sells Candy Apple, which is also on here, but it's like 7 all stats. So if you're not grabbing that, you're not really going to notice a difference. It's more like a mental thing, I guess. Event buff, sure. MVP damage buff if you have access to them. Those are here.
No, this is exactly what I was looking for. Just something so then I'm not like overriding buffs and figure out what's easy enough to get versus what's maybe more.
Yeah, there's technically more, but like Apple already, you have to do APQ and everything for that, so that's that's like some more advanced level stuff. Some people will go into practice, Princess No, so that you can get that buff at the end that you can get sometimes as like an extra damage buff. So there's a bunch of stuff that you can do. But the reason I asked for the green pot is because it gives you the extra attack speed, and it lets you bypass the soft cap to the hard cap for attack speed. So with that on, and with your decent speed infusion on, you should actually be 2 ranks of attack speed above what you can reach now. So in favor of the rope lift, because you have resonance rush, right? You can use impale and resonance rush combo, and you have your up jump and your float and everything. I feel like mobility wise you're already pretty good, so I would try to get into getting your decent speed infusion in there. so that you can use that for all of that extra attack speed. And it should also, you know, for getting around the map should be a little bit smoother, but mainly when you're attacking on bosses, you should get stuck in animation less and be able to respond faster to attacks and getting out of the way, and that should help you with your survivability there as well.
Okay, no, that's good. Yeah, sorry, this was my loadout from Spirit Savior.
Mm-hmm.
With a lift.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, I'm 20% from 240, so I'll have that next slot opening.
Easy,
so
yeah.
Probably put decent speed infusion and then sharp eyes whenever the boots or whatever piece the sharp eyes is on gets replaced. Otherwise, would it be worth probably just putting Yarda Nova in there for a second bind?
Yeah, although I find that usually I use that pretty late in the game because you're a 3-minute class, right, with like big 3-minute burst. So you want to make sure that at the 3-minute that you can bind, and that's what your own bind can do because that is a 3-minute cooldown. The only other time where you would use another bind is either you're doing a bunch of bosses and you don't need your full bind for it, right? And you just want to bind them to make sure that the rune hits because it tends to miss with the bosses teleporting around. But if it's on the same boss, then you almost don't want to use a second bind for fear of like desynchronizing your burst rotation essentially.
Yeah, I'd hate to like within that 90-second resist window, hit the bind.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And realize I was at 89 seconds or something. Cool.
Yeah, other than that,
You know,
Matrix
really
looks good, like built up well. And saving
Yeah, I
all of
think
the nodes here.
Yeah, unfortunately, most of those tri-skill nodes up there, I think at plus 30, so they're still 10 levels away from getting the IED bonus.
Yeah,
or
yeah, that
whatever the
IED
level
will
40
still.
is. So, I mean, there's a lot of gains on the table to
Mm-hmm.
be scooped up.
Yeah. Oh yeah, speaking of because you have the sharp eyes. If you, I probably do it like after the. Yeah, it'll kind of depend on how quickly you're getting into arcane stuff, but kind of the same thing goes for the glove as it goes for the weapon, right? If you find that you have enough damage and you can do everything, you can kind of keep the glove where it is. But if you do need more damage, you can also decide to get that to legendary and get some critical damage on there. That's kind of in the same ballpark, I would say, as the weapon.
Okay. Put those on like the same priority.
Yeah, same priority list, I guess.
Yeah. Put it on the next.
Yeah, and then try to capitalize on the uniques that you have. You probably get a bunch of hard cubes when you're cubing, when you're bossing, so you can keep using those on the items that maybe don't have great lines yet to get a little bit more stat on there.
Yeah, I was gonna just try to get the shoulder to unique,
Mhm.
something manageable. But I will probably, like, I know there's not a good TMT or Miracle cube events going on right now. Is it still worth it to just buy standard cubes and just go at it now? I mean, I feel like I can sit on Mesos for a long time, so at some point you kind of just gotta pull the trigger and decide if you're gonna.
Yeah, like any, if you're as long as you're keeping your money mainly for like the big Star Forcing events, I'd say you can cube mainly at any time, other than what I was talking about, like if you're trying to like 3-line your WSE or like 3-line your accessories past 21 star and you're like trying to get 3 lines of stat on there. Other than those projects, I would say just cube at any time that like makes sense and that you want to, honestly. Like if you're doing those really expensive projects, I would probably wait for a cube sale because then you're making significant savings. But outside of that, I think it's totally fine to just cube whenever you think like, oh, I've got like if you build one of my items is kind of shitty. Event for Star Forcing is still like a few months out. Like I can easily spare a few build and yeah, just go for it.
Okay. Yep, that makes sense. Something where I'm not spending like 500 to 1,000 cubes on an item.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. As far as I can tell, the new cubes are the same as the red and black. Nexon just decided they wanted to rename them.
Yeah, they have a small chance of doing a double tier up apparently, but I've only had like a few sightings of that for other people. I've never had it happen. So essentially, they're just the same and renamed. Yeah.
I can't remember the difference between the bright and the other one right now, so I'm just gonna say red and black. If
Sure.
if I had a legendary item like, let's say, for instance, this secondary right here,
Mm-hmm.
would you recommend red cubes until you get 2 functional lines, and then that would be the point that you would start using the black cubes for perfecting at a later point.
So essentially, so you want to use the glowing cubes, what they're called now. You glowing cubes until I have 2 useful lines now, and then if your goal is to get to 3 good lines, I would say wait until you have the money, wait until I have a cube sale, and then just go ham on glowing cubes again and roll over it. I would never use the bright cubes just for like the sole purpose of maintaining what you have, just because in the grand scheme of things, you lose efficiency on the rolls unless what you're aiming for is double prime lines, because then the bright cubes are better value than the glowing cubes. It makes more sense to roll over what you have and to have enough budget to go for that next thing that you're looking for. If you really don't want to do that, or if that's just you never really tend to get to that amount of money where that makes sense to do that, then I think it would make more sense to just make another secondary on the side and get that to legendary, and then just roll with glowing cubes on that. And if you get something that's slightly better, then just switch the functionality and then roll the other one without the risk. That would make financially more sense than to use bright cubes instead. Just because they,
I kind of wondered on that too.
yeah, because they almost cost double, so you're losing out on a lot of potential rolls by doing that.
Yeah, I kind of wondered if people made secondary, a secondary.
Yeah, they tend to do that. Yeah.
It just seems to make sense because they're kind of.
I don't want to do it too early, right? Because then you're spreading a lot of your money in just, a lot of your money is going into like another item at that point that could be going into guaranteed damage on all of your other pieces together. So once you hit like 2-line attack on this one, that's probably fine for a while, or like a line of attack, a line of boss. That's going to be good for a long while. Because the next step is basically aiming for 3 lines, so that's probably when all of the other stuff is like approaching 19, 20, 21 stars. So.
Yeah. Yep. All in good time.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe 2 final questions,
Mm-hmm.
and then we can wrap it up.
Yep.
So, one of them's easy. Just for the boss buffs that you shared, did you say that was exclamation point checklist? Is that what the command is?
This one, yeah, for bossing and mobbing. Yeah, this is X checklist. Yeah. I basically made it for me because I kept forgetting stuff.
Yeah, well.
And then I kept adding on as time went on.
All right, and then a final one, because drop cure is so important. I think a lot of people, from what I've seen, shoot for 5 lines of each as a kind of a baseline. I think that's what gets you to every monster drops a bag. Could be wrong.
Yeah. For that I have exclamation mark drop rate. Talks about the percentages and where they come from, and yeah, exactly. Like you need 66.67% drop to make sure that every monsters drops a bag, and that's so 3 would be not enough if you had no other sources of drop rate, and 4 would technically be a little bit overkill. But you can't really go too high on drop rate because drop rate stacks up to 200% from equip, so up to 10 lines count. And as you know, we want node stones, we want all the other drops that drop from monsters anyway. So if you can go a little bit over, that's the more the better there. But the Meso obtain only goes up to 100%, so we want to get those 5 lines of Meso and then as many lines of drop as you can get on top of it. So if you end up rolling an item with Meso and drop or something like that, then if you're going to go over on either one, then go over on the drop.
Yep, nope, that makes sense. I'm sure that double prime Meso lines are they might look good on paper, but they're not that great just because you need so much drop.
Yeah, early on they're not great, but for later on they are great because in the higher level areas, specifically in like Surdium and stuff, it'll be really difficult, near impossible to wear your full drop and Meso set and still be able to kill the monsters. But what you might be able to do is wear just the Meso pieces, because the drop is not very efficient there. The only drops you can get there is nodes, and you're not going to be killing as many monsters as the other areas, so you're not really missing out on much by not having drop rate on. So if you can wear Meso obtain and you can get enough drop rate from other sources like Inner Ability, Decent Holy Symbol, and perhaps Meso drop rate from familiars, then you can make sure that a bag always drops, and then you can get your 5 lines of Meso from fewer pieces that are Meso that are not damage gear, and you can maintain max amount of damage gear and therefore maintain your kill speed. So they can have their purpose there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure by that point, the amount of nodes I need is going to be probably a smaller priority than what it is now.
Yeah, except,
Right.
if your other characters get hungrier, but then they'll just have to get their own drop rate gear and start working for themselves kind of thing.
Yeah, I'll probably have to have more playtime before that's a real concern.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, I lied. 1.5 more questions because
Okay.
we probably should address that headset. So put the stream through a little bit of trauma there.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the interoperability goes, I'm probably gonna look at Miracle Circulating somewhere in the mix of. Probably gonna do the drop gear first. It just
Mhm.
seems
Yep.
more important. But do you have any recommendations on an Adele? What those lines should look like for the Meso side of it? I have an idea for the end game. I'm sure it's probably 20% cooldown, 20% crit. Something on that.
Yeah, let's see, because there are a few things that are like roughly equivalent for Adele, so that you have multiple outs, and then whichever one you hit, you can just commit to that. You don't have to necessarily look for like the very number one. The way I understand is that whether you have 20% boss damage on top and then 10% cooldown skip on unique, or vice versa, is very close. So whichever one you end up getting is fine, and then you kind of move on. I think it has it here. You could be 20% boss legendary. In that case, 10% cooldown skip. Unique is advised. Yeah, so whichever one you hit from there, and then ideally crit for the damage. But let's say that you hit. There's also damage to debuffed, which is also 100% active, right? Because you're always going to be debuffing bosses, especially as an Adele. That goes up to 8%, so that's also very close to the boss, because the boss might go as low as 8 or 9% as well. If you hit 7 or 8% of this, sometimes people then commit to it as well, just because it's so rare to hit a good interoperability. This could be good enough to keep as a line as well, because that still keeps the boss damage and the cooldown skip possible open for top line. And then if you hit 20% cooldown skip, they either look for crit or 10% boss here. For crit will typically mean that early on you'll be able to hit auto crit even without like a massive legion. And once your legion gets bigger, then you'll be able to take the crit out of your out of your link skill. But if you do have a decent legion eventually and you have the link skills available, you could also just go for boss and damage debuffed and cooldown skip. But sometimes people get like 10% cooldown skip on unique, and then they lock that, and then you just roll for boss on top. That gives you a little bit more flexibility. So ideally, I think you want like 10% cooldown skip on unique in the middle. Because that one is both useful for mobbing and bossing, right? And then either like drop rate or Meso obtain probably on the top line, and if you can get like drop for Meso the other one on like epic on the bottom, that would probably be like a really solid like leveling interoperability, because from there you can keep that unique line, and once you have enough honor experience, then lock that one and then just roll over the top one and either go for 20 boss, essentially is then the main one that you're looking for, right? And then once you have that one, then you can lock the two and then hope for either boss or damage debuffed, or maybe weapon attack, or just something on the bottom line. Or drop rate. Drop rate's always good.
Okay, that sounds good. I mean, it sounds like there's no one cookie cutter answer,
Mm-hmm.
which is fine. As far as that middle line goes, when you push towards end game, you're probably gonna want at least the middle or the top to be cooldown skip. You probably would want to do boss with crit, like boss top line, crit middle line. You probably want to have one of them as cooldown skip.
Yeah, typically not the top line crit, because then that you get an extra 10 crit, but that's going at the expense of too much other damage. Yeah.
Feels like there's a lot of places to get crit rate from.
Exactly. Yeah. There's more with your hyper skills, link skills, legion grid. Like you can make up for some crit more easily. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm floating a little bit too much crit right now, but that's just because of 12% on
the soul.
the
Yeah.
soul.
Mm-hmm. It's good to have a little bit extra now, though, because when that soul goes, you want to not be at like a huge crit deficit all of a sudden and be like, oh my god, where am I going to get the rest? Because 100 crit, even though it's not hard to get, it is super important to maintain.
No, definitely agree. Well, perfect. Just for comedic sake, do you have any recommendations on a headset? obviously we band-aided this one together and made it through with a little IT issue, but
Yeah. That's it with a microphone in it.
yeah.
Which one did I hear? I think in terms of like not super expensive, but things that are still pretty solid. I think the HyperX stuff is pretty good from what I heard. But I'm not being sponsored by anyone right now. So if you wanna, if you wanna make sure that I make recommendations for your brand, hit me. But I think the HyperX stuff is priced pretty decently in terms of quality and or just in general, like Logitech stuff is usually fine.
Okay, I think this is probably low-end Logitech.
Yeah, maybe not like the lowest. I usually just don't go for the lowest of end, usually because the price to quality ratio is just so, like, it's really good, but the quality is just so low that you end up buying like 5 of them, and then you end up more expensive than like the middle tier stuff anyway. So usually I go for like a middle tier stuff. I'd never go for like the highest tier because, you know, you're supposed to route that through like 13 different other amps and stuff to make sure you get the value out of it, and I'm not I'm not about that life.
Yeah.
But
it's kind of your diminishing returns to find the median of price and quality.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, usually I go like a little bit, not the cheapest, but like middle.
Well, I probably will be sticking with my current guild right now just because I enjoy working with them. Not that I would enjoy applying to your guild or the Mule Guild, but just for curiosity, our benchmarks right now, they've probably increased. Are you looking at like 240 plus?
Yeah, 2 for the main guild, and then we have well, the main Mule Guild is pretty much just full with people's boss mules for anywhere from like level 230 something to like into the 250s. Because of Hyperburn now, it's more common that like 250s are just purely mules. And the but we have another mule guild that we're building up now together with the guild. So like you know, for that's basically probably going to have like all the Hyperburns and the Kalis in it most likely. But those are like those mule guilds are basically open to anyone who wants to join. And then as you if you stick with the character and you want to keep progressing it and stuff, and you hit like 240, it's mainly like if you're starting to look for like boss parties and you're like ready for Lucid and that kind of stuff, then I want to promote people up to the main guild. Yeah, if it's just a side character and it's going to stay a boss mule, even if it is 250, it's fine to just stay in the mule guild and get, you know, the more like the lower end guild skill. So we get like 35ish or something there, but in the main guild we get 45 plus.
Okay. Nope, that sounds good. I think this past week we had 47, which I'm not looking to guild hop or anything. I'm not overly committed because I haven't played long enough, so I'm not really invested in the community yet.
Yeah, it's really rough to get past like 45, 47, 49. But past 49, you need to be like basically top 30 guild in the entire server, so that's really tricky.
Yeah, no, they do me well. And my luck, somebody's probably watching the stream, so I'm probably gonna get the boot.
Yeah, you don't want to get kicked.
Yeah, shit talking. But no. Well, cool. Well, I really appreciate your time tonight, and
yeah, no worries.
Super helpful. I don't think we'll have any follow-up questions, but if so, do you mind? Little Discord messages here and there.
Yeah, no worries. If it's something that you feel like we would have been better if it was addressed and we miss it, then it's okay for a Discord message just to have a little bit more breakdown. But otherwise, you know, where I stream every day, so if you're able to tune in, I'll do my best to answer your questions there.
Yeah, no, I'll probably do stream, save you time, and I know that there's a lot of...
Yeah, it's easier. Yeah, it's sometimes hard to keep track of Discord with everything else already going on.
Yeah. Well, I'll be curious to see if this new TBA Live is going to become a thing, or...
Yeah, we'll see.
Right now, but good luck with your Xbox if you're fortunate enough to be the winner.
Oh yeah, hopefully. We'll see. Yeah, no, it looks like the quality, at least like the quality of the stream and stuff was really nice from what I saw. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll be curious to I'll probably take a peek at the video. Not that I like to hear myself talk, but just to see how the quality was.
Yeah. All right, good stuff. So yeah, let me know if there's anything, and otherwise I'll see you around.
Sounds great. Have a good
All right. Have a good one.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. Yeah, so I don't know if I'm going to have the full VOD. This might be like a partial VOD with a little bit of stuff in the beginning cut off. Sorry about that. Forgot to click record on my side in OBS. Usually don't do that. Usually I just pluck the stream from my regular streaming service area. But I'll see if TBA Live has a recording of the stream. If they do, then I can clip it from that. But yeah, as always, thank you for watching this progression session. And if it's helpful for you, I'm glad. If you need any of the information, make sure to go over to my Twitch channel where I have all my commands set up. I'm sure that eventually, if you do end up streaming somewhere else, we'll be able to find a way to migrate bots and all of that stuff. And we'll be able to make sure that all of the information, regardless of what chat you use to try to get it, that it will pop up there. And if not, by that time, hopefully we get a website running, and then you can just use the search functionality there so that you can use all of these resources. These are available for everyone. This is not behind a paywall or anything, so you can just use these resources. I try my best to keep them all up to date. It's a lot of information, of course. And with the new update coming with Savior, we're going to have to probably do a little bit of a pass through again and make sure that everything is updated. Like adding that weapon and magic attack, perhaps. How we're going to do that. Weapon multiplier, maybe. We'll see, we'll see. But yeah, if you want one of these coaching sessions for you, make sure you check !coaching, and you can have a one-on-one session with me as well. There's a few ways. There's also a way that you can win these free sessions, or win these sessions for free, I should say, and that is by leaving a comment on a YouTube video saying that you would like to win and include your Discord name, and you might be one of the 2 lucky candidates that I draft at the end of June. So you know, stay tuned for that. Wow, that almost rhymed. It's like I meant to do that. But yeah, thanks for checking out the video, and either watch another one or catch me live, usually over at twitch.tv/Scardor. Today, by exception, at TBA Live, but we'll see how that goes. But it seemed like everyone is. Maybe we can do a little bit of a question in the chat. How did you guys think the stream went in terms of like quality and setup and everything, and the platform? How are you guys feeling? And don't forget to refer your friends. Hopefully you referred a lot of people. I think on the leaderboard I saw a few people were passing me. Nati got 10, Drewski got 12. How did you guys do on the general leaderboard? Because is it all people in here crushing it? Because I think the quality on the stream itself, visually, I thought it looked really good, but I see on my side I dropped a little bit of frames, but that's like inevitable with how internets are working. But only 0.2%, so that's not even something to worry about. You think everything is on fire, newbie, or what is that emote supposed to say? That it's amazing, or that it's on fire? But yeah, thanks for checking out the YouTube video, at least for that portion.